everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGilvray, and as always, I'm joined by Simon, Stacey, and Jess Kevill. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. How are you both doing?
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good. It was quite a strange weekend from a Saints perspective, really, wasn't it? It was interesting, but then it was sort of a bit, bit of a come down from the week before as well. So it was. Should we start like really good news from a Saints perspective and talk Lions? 4 boys in the Lions squad. That's remarkable, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Most in terms of the Prem, we've got the most representation. So that's nice.
Yeah, and I know we were sort of discussing last week. Maybe a few others could have been in contention, but I'm pretty sure the 4 that we said would definitely go in have all got picked, weren't they? And like you said, there's something unbelievable. The chosen one, less than 12 months ago, he was in the England under-20 squad. He's a lion.
It's insane. Yeah, can't believe it, really. You can't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, when we were talking pre-Six Nations, it was like, is he even going to get a call up for the squad? He ends up playing. Then he has a starting role in our semi-final. Now he's a Lion. It's just, boy's going to be like, I don't know. He's going to be President and Prime Minister and King of England by the end of next year, I think.
Yeah, look for smoke. They've got the American in for this Carthage of papalage for the Catholic Church, but who knows, Pollock's on course for that, I think. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot to, because we discussed the ins and outs of it quite a lot in the last episode. I think they're all well deserving. I mean, it was amazing to see their, when they announced the names and to see them, how they reacted, and, see Finn Smith in tears, playing for the Lions like his granddad did. And they're just the emotion that comes with that selection. It's really amazing that it still matters that much so many years on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's good for everyone all around. I mean, there's still, I know that he said he is going to increase the size to 40. So there's 2 slots. I'm assuming lots of different people are from probably across all of the kind of 4 nations are kind of looking to grab. So it'll be interesting sort of who is in contention for those. But there are 2 extra people who are going to go. And then obviously there are a fair few injuries littered in that team. So it'll be interesting actually what the final overall squad actually looks like.
Yeah, it was quite interesting watching Blair Kinghorn's reaction to being selected, sat there in a knee brace.
I saw that. That was a bit of a weird one, but yeah.
I did read something about he's expected back in a couple of weeks, that it's some kind of strain, and I think it's just there for protection. But I don't know because I don't follow I don't follow that team. I don't follow his team or him. So but yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, like, Tuipulotu's only like fresh back from injury, isn't he? And there's a few others that I think kind of been selected but aren't actually fully fit at the moment. So it'll be interesting, what the whole entire, because that happens. I swear that happens every single time there's a Lions, like extra people end up having to be called up because of XYZ. So that like final 38 squad, we already know it's going to get 2 more people in it because Andy Farrell has said as much. And then there'll be probably some chops and changes because everyone's got more rugby to play as well. So yeah, it's fantastic for everyone. I think Smith had done an interview, didn't he, about praising Dingwall for kind of having them all round and having them all for dinner or something when he was probably really close to being selected and must be kind of feeling some of that disappointment as well. So that was really nice, kind of the relationships between everyone. But yeah, I was pretty solid that those were the 4 that were going to go. I think all of us were, really. Even with Henry, I felt like it was a question mark up until the semi-final, and then it just felt obvious to me. I think it felt obvious to a lot. I think a lot of people at that point, it went from he'll be the bolter, like someone that's just an outsider to take, to all of a sudden just being in the general conversation for obviously going. So I'm not even necessary. I mean, it's technically, I suppose it's a bolter because he's minimal caps in terms of internationals and stuff, and he's kind of come out of nowhere, but it doesn't feel that bolterish when you look at his performances in the past, because sometimes they take someone, don't they, like a bolter to kind of get experience, but he's going because of how well he's been playing, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if they take people to get experience, but they definitely take people who might might offer something different and might just in that environment flourish. But like you said, he is at this point in time well deserving of his place, and I don't think it's a question of we'll take him because he might be great. It's sort of we're taking him because we expect him to be great because he is the chosen one. So yeah, phenomenal. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see all of them in the test team. But we'll get to that. We'll talk about that later down the line. And like you said, there's two spots open, and based on injuries, and we've got a massive game in Cardiff coming up. If someone has a standout performance in that game, that puts them really in the conversation, doesn't it? So it's really exciting.
Yeah, you can't help but think that assuming that Dingwall's probably going to captain that side, and despite the outcome, you feel like if he's he leads how he has led so far and plays how he's played so far, that he's got to be in contention for one of those two spots. But I mean, Farrell's left it very open-ended. He said it's based on people to prove form and or fitness. So I don't know if he's got a couple of recently returning people maybe from injury in mind potentially, or if he really is just leaving it open to like what happens between now and the end of the season. But yeah, really chuffed for the four guys. Like I said, I felt like pretty much all of them were. Tommy Freeman's been nailed on for like 2-3 months at this point. Finn Smith probably again in the past month or so, and the set Alex potentially even longer. I felt like him and Jamison Gibson Park were always the two. Like I felt like that's been solidified for a long time. So yeah, good to see all of that come to fruition and everyone to be genuinely really happy for them. And we'll see what happens. There's obviously also an England tour coming up, and I think there's a really good chunk of Saints sides that I think are going to get selected for that wider team, just based on form, and some of them obviously already kind of making appearances / being in training camps, etc. I think a really good chunk of them are going to go and take part in that as well. So it'll be a really good summer in terms of continuing Saints rep.
Yeah, exactly. You could say really good. You could say they're all out there playing matches, but they're not, which means they'll be playing less matches for Northampton, and we won't be seeing them so early in next season. But it's amazing to see them represent, and I'm sure they'll have a great time. But let's bring it back to.
I was going to say the only thing I was going to say with the video that was released with the Saints, it was a shame it wasn't the other way around, wasn't it? So like it was the backs first, because Pollock would have been the suspense. In the end, it ended up being Ben Smith, and he was like, he's the last one out of the four that everyone's expecting, and you see him there, and there's like 20 lads there, and he's just going, "Come on, please, just come on," and then he gets it. Do you reckon those two spots aren't already chosen by Farrell? He's just seeing if they're. I don't think it's open to other people. I think it's probably either injury or.
No, he did say he made it pretty clear that it was pretty open as to who takes those two. He said there's a fair few people that they're still considering.
You got to think though that scrum halves are covered, fly halves are covered, so it's probably going to be forwards, isn't it? It's got to be.
Potentially, yeah. But there's also it's the backs for me where there's some of those injury question marks. So
like you said, people in a massive league break.
The whole second choice back three, in my view, is injured currently.
Yeah.
So they might need bodies on tour just so that they could actually get some training in. But I think he's probably got players who he thinks they're good enough, but they're not. They don't warrant selection yet. So we'll leave the door open. I don't think he's going to leave. I don't think the door's open for a Bolter, say. I think it's open for the likes of Owen Farrell, whereby if they can get their game on the pitch that they're good enough. But he doesn't really warrant it on his form at the moment. I think there's also a big thing. One of the massive things about the whole selection. And this is going off topic away from Saints, but there wasn't any French-based players selected. One of those reasons, obviously, is because their season goes quite late. All the British, the URC, the Premiership, etc., arranged the season to allow the Lions tour. Obviously, the French couldn't care less, so it hasn't. And therefore, the likes of Tom Willis and etc., then just probably deserving, but not on it because of their season structure. And also, I don't know, I think it's a little bit of a, home nations protectionism. Let's not pick the players that have gone away to France because,
King Kong's the only one, isn't he?
Yeah, King Kong's the only one.
King Kong's the one. Yeah.
But anyway.
He plays for Scotland, England, doesn't he? So that's what people are saying. Why didn't Jack Willis definitely? I would have took him, but he's not playing for England. Whereas Kinghorn has been. That's where England penalised themselves by not picking French-based players. So you can only blame. I get it. I would have took him. He's probably one of the best sevens in the world, but we'll see.
Well, it's interesting though, isn't it? Did they not say on Friday that the Curry that was selected, I should know which one it is off the top of my head, and I never do, went off injured. So who knows what's going to happen there? Is someone going to have to be picked up? Because obviously an injury that you get now, like Blair Kinghorn, he got his a few weeks ago, right? Or whatever it was. So he's had a kind of couple of extra and they expect him to be back in time. Whereas the later on the season goes and the later you get your injury, the bigger the chance. So you've got to think that the other Curry brother and Willis all of a sudden are back in that conversation actually because of that injury. So, there'll be a lot of people waiting to hear what that is, how serious that potentially could be. It could be nothing, could be something.
Yeah, there are lots to play out. And it's a bit shame that Courtney's not going. That was the one I wanted, but it's just anyway, back to Blighty, back to Saints. I mean, it was a really interesting game on Sunday afternoon, wasn't it? I mean, obviously the team selection was pretty much as we predicted and as we thought. The performance was probably better than I thought it was going to be, to be honest with you. And if it hadn't been, for the sort of concentrated injuries we've got at 10, I sort of think, based on that first half dominance, we could have won that game.
Yeah.
I thought the forwards were phenomenal, really.
It's that last 10 minutes, isn't it? The first half where they just scored those quick tries, but it was it's quite horrible to see, like the way Exeter developed. How, no offense to Exeter, how poor they are at the minute. I'm not blaming our lads, but that was like probably our third strength team. There's a lot of young lads, second strength third, and there's a lot of lads getting their first games and they haven't played with each other, so we were expecting it, weren't we? Really, if we're honest. But I thought it was a really average, not performance-wise from both sides. There was nothing to really laud. And that scoreline, it's saying 3 weeks in a row, the scoreline doesn't show you the performance of the game. It's like,
I think we held on, didn't we? We held on for as long as we could, and then we just had to make some sort of necessary changes. I think once Tom James went off, and I'm assuming failed that HA because he didn't return, and having to move people around again, it throws everything off of back. And as soon as it happened and he went off, I was like, we won't be able to claw our way back into this. I'm not saying it's one particular player that like brings all of that together. It's more the again moving people out of the structure that they spent a whole week training in. And having to do that very kind of last minute, it throws everything off a little bit. So I think when you compound that with, it's not a full strength side, and at Exeter, I think they felt like they probably had a little bit to prove. I'm not sure they did.
They 100% did. Yeah, I mean they're in a bad state of affairs, and you listen to Baxter, and he says how they're not aligned internally from the coaches to the players, and the coaches aren't aligned, and that it's not about changing style of play. It's about getting everyone trying to play the same style, and they're really struggling. And I think what they've lacked this season is almost what we were lacking in that game. So you look at Exeter, and they've had a lot of turnover in their halfbacks. 9, 10 haven't really established themselves since they lost. Simmons and White, who were two outstanding performances for them. Since they've lost them, they've not really had standout and cemented players in those roles. And they've gone from Harvey Skinner, and they've had Hayden Wood-Brown in at 10, and Slade's played at 10, and they've had about 9 scrum halves over the last 2 years, right? So they're really struggling with direction and what they're trying to achieve, and leaders in that back line. And I think that's what we were missing. Tom James is a top bloke, right? Top player, outstanding 9. He's not a Premiership standard 10, and that's not a criticism of him, because he's not expected to be a Premiership standard 10 because he's above Premiership standard 9, right? So he's doing a great job for being asked to do it, putting his hand up, having a go, performing reasonably well, etc. Nothing so poor or anything like that, but it's just not natural with him in there. He basically played 10 and 9 in that first half. He was playing 9 when we weren't going to go out wide, and then he was playing 10 when we were. And that's not ideal. That's less than ideal. But what it did show was that those forwards really got on top. But I just think there are opportunities, especially through that first half, where if we'd had a GMC or even a Charlie Zavala, someone who's used to stepping in that first receiver pot role and controlling everything around him. It's all well and good, having the capability of taking it, moving and passing. You've got to be at home in that role and understand it and talk to everyone around you and pull the strings. And if we'd had that, I think we'd have I really think we could have beaten them because our forwards really were getting on top. We just weren't able to capitalize on that. So yeah, I think that's what it was like. There's some of the performance of the forwards. I mean, we can list them off. I thought Finn Brown was excellent.
Yeah,
I think he was really
who
top
I was going to pick
draw.
out.
Yeah, and I thought Munger was great. I thought Ed Prowse was really physical. Killer. Elliot Miller Mills, he was awesome. I just thought that they were really, like I said, and then like you said, Jess, as soon as TJ went off, and you're asking Jake Garside, who's a much less experienced player, full stop. He's a scrum half / back three player. How often he's stepped in at 10 at any level, I don't know.
Yeah.
So to ask him to do that is not impossible. To have the guts to step and do it, the bravery to step up and do it, fair play.
I thought he was all right at fullback as well because of his height.
I thought he was really, really good. I thought he was really
played
good.
A lot. I thought he was doing all right at fullback, but it's different playing 10, isn't it?
That's what I meant. It felt like we had some semblance of a sort of structure before Tom James went off, and then the whole thing got kind of thrown out of the pram. But I was trying to say, I didn't mean that Exeter didn't have something to prove. They did. I mean, they didn't prove it. I think.
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel like. I think I read an article that said something about it. Despite that win, they were still incredibly lackluster, which I think kind of sums it up. Really, it felt like it's really telling when your man of the match is someone that scored 2 tries, but also 3 times somehow just trod on the line and didn't seem to have any idea where he was at any point in the game. I said, when you're man of the match, or someone that's probably made more mistakes than the good things that he's done, I said it kind of sums up the game and also kind of sums up where Exeter are. This is, again, not to kind of poop on them, because you never want to see a team kind of that far off. But I think even the Exeter fans will probably be able to look back on that and be like, it still wasn't, if we'd put a full strength side out, I think we'd have absolutely demolished them. I think they probably know that too. Because I think Brown Bampo is excellent, right? Ball in hand is absolutely excellent, and the tries are absolutely excellent. But I reckon it was 3 times he just trod on the line. I was like, where do you think you are? And it wasn't like being forced out either. He just trod on the line, and then I think it was Henry Slade as well with the ball that was definitely going dead from the kickoff, and he tried to catch it and trod. And I was like, these are errors that the teams from like 1 through 8 essentially aren't making. It does show you the kind of key difference. And then I think they obviously interview Baxter when the game is going on and they're winning, and he said, is this what you want to see? And he went, not really, no. Even when they're in the lead, like, the coach is very honest of, this is not what I want to see. Shouldn't be making these kinds of mistakes. And I think if it really wasn't for a couple of things that I think we held in for much longer than I expected to. It was a 7-point game for much longer than I thought it would be, to give credit, to the team. And sure, it's a loss, and a loss that we also didn't get any points from. But there's some really positives to take away from that. And I think we've obviously we'll talk about the Saracens game again in a bit later, but we've got that game where you're assuming that they're going to go full strength, which is what I would do. Then you've got the final, which is going to be the same team from Saracens. And then I would say with Gloucester, I'd almost be tempted at that point to just give that group of people who played against Exeter another run out. I think I don't think it will be pretty against a Gloucester who are higher up in the table. I must say their performance at the weekend was absolutely awful. So I don't know what's going on with Gloucester all of a sudden either. But I'd almost be tempted to get that. I'd be tempted to get that exact same group of people back out there, because that's where those connections are going to come, right? You see the connections that we've got with the full strength side, to quote unquote it, that has just come from regular playing together and things clicking and things working. I'd be kind of tempted to get as many of them back out together as possible, really. But yeah, I think that was the key thing really for me in the first half. It didn't feel like there was any specific, like really egregious mistakes. It was just we could not get over the line. I think we were in the half 6 times and we got 1 try in those first 6 attempts. We just couldn't quite do it, and it just comes with practice. It comes with experience. It comes with playing together regularly, and they don't have it. And I think considering that they don't have that yet, they played really, really well. I think there's a lot to be kind of proud of, even though yes, it's coming home with no points to add to the tally.
No, exactly. They should be fully proud of that performance. It was phenomenal. Like you said, I think if they had someone who was used to just controlling things, knowing and executing that game plan, like GMC or Savannah at 10, the conversion rate on those opportunities would have been higher. And then scoreboard pressure comes into play, doesn't it? And you said how Baxter had been interviewed and he said things aren't really going the way we want to do it, because there was no confidence in that Chiefs team whatsoever. They were questioning everything they did. Clearly, they had no sort of energy or because they were so tight. They were so restricted because they weren't confident in their game plan. Saints were in that position, not that long ago. All teams go through it, and Exeter have got all the opportunity, all the resources, all the talent to come back, and they'll be good again. There's no doubt about that. The talent in that squad is certainly there. Like I said, potentially what they're missing is a bit of authority, a bit of leadership in those halves to really get their game plan on the pitch. But if we'd have had that in that game, like I said, even a youngster like GMC, but who's just used to playing that role, developing that sort of leadership in attacking decisions, etc., I'm sure we could have done better. But yeah, and I think Dale said before the game, it was a really interesting selection because players there are playing for the shirt, really literally. There's people there whose contracts aren't confirmed for next season, and that's their opportunity in the shop window to go out there and prove to the club that they deserve to be here next year, or if not, they deserve to be there go and play for someone else. And I think I've got to say that most of them, you've got to imagine, probably the club will be really proud and really keen to keep the people that they're not sure on. I think to also add to the score, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Seabrook went off injured in the last 10 minutes, so we were down to 14.
Yeah.
So it's not. I'm not surprised that they suddenly found a bit of extra space. One of the tries, Garside was on the floor injured, so there would have been 2 men missing out of the back line. So it's just space. Hodge is going to find space in those situations, etc. So
to be fair, I think Seabrook was injured already before he started, and then he got hurt after about 10 minutes, and he played on one leg. So to be fair, give him his due. Whatever you think about where he's going next season, there was no way that boy wasn't playing for the shirt, because he was literally on one leg for 60 minutes, and he did all he could, and he kept telling them, "No, I'm not coming off. I'm not coming off," and he had no choice in the end. He had to, because he couldn't walk.
Yeah, exactly. No, they all put in a phenomenal effort, and like I said, I think the likes of Prowse, Brown, all the youngsters in the backs, Johnny Wyman, they all really made big statements. I think it shows you how strong the squad is when they can go out and put that sort of performance in.
Yeah, it's just what I said before we started talking about it. Like, that did not reflect the game. They scored probably 3 or 4 tries that were just quick mistakes. You got to remember, those was 4 players playing out of position as well. And I'm not bad mouthing Exeter, but if they take anything away from that, it's like, oh yeah, we just beat the champions. No, you didn't. It was a very put together squad, and yeah, it could have been a different thing. Like you said, if we'd had a 10, we all knew it. We all expected it.
Yeah, I kind of get the vibe really from what Baxter was saying, that they certainly are not taking that from that. They're not taking, well, we beat the champ. I don't get that vibe from them. I don't get that vibe from their fans. I don't even think
social media, they were like, oh, what I thought. No, it wasn't.
I mean, there's also a fair amount that are just kind of like, is it though? A lot of people kind of questioning it. Really, like I said, their big games in the last rounds are what are coming. The 2 that they've got left, I don't think they were ever really. Yeah, I think there's a fair few, definitely a fair few fans out there that sort of like, we maybe need to wait to see what happens in the final 2 rounds, where we might come up against, 4 strength sides, to kind of see what happens. But Also, I don't really blame them for celebrating a big win, no matter who it's against, to be fair, because they've not exactly had that much this season to grab onto. So I don't begrudge them the fact of just kind of grabbing onto that and being happy about that. But I think there's probably a fair amount of them either outwardly or inwardly sort of know that that's perhaps not as big of a statement as they perhaps think it is.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of them think it's big. I think they're just happy to get back on the winning train.
Yeah, 100%. Which you would
enjoy the wins and some tries from some of their good young players, etc. Said Exeter will come again. They've got all the core ingredients you need to put together a good side. They just need to get a few things lined up and maybe a set of halfbacks that can lead them around a bit. But yeah, anyway, looking ahead and trying not to look too far ahead. Maybe just look 1 week ahead. You know, we'll leave Cardiff for a future episode. But it's an interesting one this weekend, isn't it? It's a really interesting one because you could say it means nothing. You could say it's our duty to make sure we beat Saracens so they don't finish in the top 4 for the good of the game, for the good of rugby as a whole. But you also think, oh God, hopefully, we've got to go full go so that we get a really good side and good momentum into the final. But the risks are there, aren't they?
Nah, you got to do it.
No, I think
I know what you're saying. It is a risk, but I don't. You've got to go. Look what happened to Leinster. They literally looked like they'd been off for 4 weeks. We always play rubbish if we have 2 weeks or 3 weeks off. So I know it's Sarries, the old enemy. We want to beat them. So we're just going to have to go out and do it. Don't flinch out of tackles. You're more likely to get an injury doing that. So go full blown, go and beat them, and then on to Cardiff and beat Bordeaux.
I think the risk is tenfold if you don't play all of them. I think undercooked into a Champions Cup final, I reckon you could kiss it goodbye if you didn't. Genuinely, I feel like you could kiss it goodbye that early if you didn't play them. And I'm not saying I'm expecting all of them to do 80 minutes, not even. Take them off at 50. Do what you have to do to kind of protect them. But I think we got that absolutely spot on with Bristol. Going full strength against Bristol. I think getting that win, maybe it's slightly different against Sarries because with Sarries we beat them 3 times last year. So we've kind of, it's not like a bogey team as it were. Whereas Bristol, I think we also carried through the momentum of beating a team we didn't manage to get a win over the season before. I think, that was certainly helpful. But I just think you have to ride in on a high, and the only way to do that is to have a win under your belt. And you can't go in undercooked in any way, shape or form, especially not against a team like Bordeaux. Because Bordeaux are probably going to play fairly similar to us, to be honest. They love playing at pace. They've got I'm assuming that Penno is not going to be fit, but otherwise they've still got BLBRA, who is just crazy. So you're going to have to be absolutely on it to shut them down. And I don't think you will be because you've got to think of how long that would have been by the time they've played, right? That would be 3-4 weeks by the time of their actual last match. That is too long. It just is too long. And I think that's exactly why we rested them all last week. I think specifically because we're probably not going to do that this weekend. I think the only question mark will be over Freeman, because it's obviously, if that semi-final is the level, if he has hit the level of the number of games he's able to play, I think they can risk it with a final. Not sure if they'll be able to risk it with 2 games necessarily. I'm not saying that they won't risk it. I'm just wondering if perhaps that's the only question mark of, do they still have to sit him out for Sarries, because you can kind of use an excuse of it's a Champions Cup final, there's no way we're not playing him. But they might potentially question playing him in a league game of a league you're already out of. But it depends what those conversations have been between them and the league, to be honest, which I'm assuming have been happening. So
might not be a choice because we haven't really got any backs, have we, to be fair?
No.
Even Seabrook's now, so.
Yeah, the only thing I would say with 3 minutes, I read something different in another journalist a journalist had written something, and he was talking about the running out of games, etc.
Yeah.
And the number that he counted was different to me. When I've gone back and I've looked at every Premiership game he's played, every European Cup game he's played, every England game he's played, and obviously you include last year's tour as well. Or not, the summer tour from last year counts this season, doesn't it? In the sense that the Lions tour will count for next season, etc.
Yeah.
Right. So whether the journalist has made that error and not counted them or not, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure he's played 30 games. So in theory,
Yeah.
he is done. But they will be playing him in the final regardless.
Yeah.
But I was
I'm
going to
just going
ask
to
the
base
question: do we think he's someone we don't need to take the risk with because he is so much on form that you can leave him out the fire for a bit?
I put him in the same camp of what I would have put Furbank in if he was still playing. One of those where the form is so electric, you're probably all right. Like, so I think you probably could, and it wouldn't make any of a difference. I just think for everyone else, in terms of like the whole team as a collective, I think you need to get them, together and firing together before going in. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But otherwise, other than the question mark over him and what they're going to do there, I'm honestly assuming that they're pretty much going to go with that starting 15 of what they're expecting to put out the week after. And then they'll pull off they'll take off some of the key men. But then there's also a question mark of what you do about someone like a Finn Smith, because we don't have a replacement 10. Like, what happened there?
I think you end up playing, bringing Hutch into at the end. I think it's the first team we're thinking: Manny, Curtis, Big Trev, Coles,
Timo,
Kemeny, Gus, Pollock, Mitchell, Finn, Hutch, Dingers, Rambert fullback, Freeman on the wing,
and Litchfield on your
probably on the other wing, yeah.
Essentially. So then, it depends what sort of happens with Hutchison as well, doesn't it? Because, like, do they want to play him for the full 80? Are they going to have to play him for the full 80 because you want to bring Finn off after 60 or whatever it might be? It also depends how the game is going. It also depends how the game is going. Like, if it's still close on 60 minutes, there's every chance they leave some of them on.
Yeah, I also think Hutchinson's got, he's fine because, he's fine to leave out there getting more game time because he didn't play, obviously, during that whole Six Nations period. And also, he whilst when Odendal was fit, he was generally getting the nod. So I think Hutchinson will probably be a player they'll be happy to get 80 minutes out of, albeit he is crucial. So the depth in the backs is, like I said, so minimal now that we can't afford to lose any of them really. But some are more crucial than crucial. So
I think you kind of got to do it for the league as well. I know we can look after ourselves, but you imagine the other teams that are fighting for fourth or third going, "Our Saints put out the kids against Sarries." Do you not ethically have to put out a full strength? We didn't against Exeter, but that doesn't really matter, does it? Because it was 9th versus 8th. But you can see them protesting if we put a weak side out. To say, you know what I mean? I don't know whether they'd say, "Well, you've got to." I don't know if there's a law. There is, like in the Premier League, isn't there? Football.
No, there's not. But I think they'll want to finish strong at home. Last game of the season at home.
Yeah.
And I also think you're right. Like, I just think Sarries shouldn't be in that top 4. Right? They're not good enough, in my honest opinion. And it would be really good for the game to see that when the salary cap's been implied and their squad's in balance, they've not made the top 4. So if they get into the top 4 because we happen to have made the European final and therefore have gone really weak against them, it just puts a real sourness in the mouth when they end up winning it. and it's like, so I think I think we'll go full strong. I think the confidence will be in the team, and we said before, we're actually a team that played very well against Saracens in terms of we know how to deal with them. Yeah. Sometimes they're too good. They've been too good, right? We could play our best rugby and really challenge them, but they'll get the win. But we've got experience of playing against that blitz attack, which is what we demonstrated and really preps us really well for that Leinster win. We know how to play against those sort of teams, and so whilst Bordeaux won't be anything like that, I think they've got that muscle memory of knowing how to play these teams and confidence in terms of how to break down the teams. You've got to go through the middle. You've got to keep it nice and short. You can't allow that defense to get on top of you. You go short through the middle, overload the blind slides. You just don't let that defense become a factor in the game. You kick them back down the pitch, play territory, let them have the ball. Albeit Sarries with the ball are a pretty dangerous side, but Yeah, it'd be really. I just think the confidence within that core group is so
Yeah.
that they'll want to win, they'll want to play. Um, I don't know
I
whether they're
don't.
going to announce instead of leavers either, because I know what you said. You said, Jess, about sending a similar team against Exeter to Gloucester. I I fully agree, and you also think there's a few of those boys who are playing for contracts next year. They won't
Mhm.
confirm their leavers list probably till the end of the season, because there's actually an opportunity for them to play and have a stab at it, which isn't always the case. So I don't even think there'll be a leavers list for this Saturday, which has always normally been the case. Last game of the season, leavers list announced. You go up there, get your shirt, everyone cheers everyone off. I don't know if they're doing that or not. I'm not heard.
I don't know. I know they like to do it each year. Obviously, they couldn't do it in terms of on the pitch last year. I still have a feeling that they might do it even for the ones who are all deconfirmed, just because of some of the names that are leaving. That I think there'll probably be something, but yeah, whether they have a full list or not, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't even think really that stopping Sarries from getting into the top four is even going to factor in to their thinking. I really think it would just be they need a win in that team before next week, and they need to make sure that they're playing. I honestly don't even think, and they shouldn't be. I really
No,
don't think that they
you're
should.
right. You're right.
Yeah, they shouldn't even have that in their minds, to be honest with you, because it's just so irrelevant at that point.
It's so
and
petty.
I still
it's so petty,
it's
but
not
it has
relevant.
to happen.
Yeah. But it just is, isn't it? Like it's literally a complete irrelevance considering what we already have coming up. I don't even think that will factor into their minds, because I don't see any real reason why it should. And that race is so close. There's so many different permutations of what's going to happen up there that yeah, I don't think they should waste any of their kind of headspace or thought on that, really. I think they just need to think of what is going to get us in the best chance to win the week after. That's all that they should really focus on.
Yeah, but I also think you can't look beyond the game, because if you look beyond the game, you just won't win it. So
No, I
if
think
they
they'll
can
want to.
get
I
a
think they'll want to beat
story,
Sarries, definitely. They'll want to beat you want to beat whoever is at home, right? They'll want to get a home win. I honestly just think they'd be approaching it no matter who that team is. They'd be approaching it as this is the last home game of the season. We want to get a win over whoever that opponent is. Just so happens that it's Sarries, and yeah, it just so happens it might impact the top four. But I really don't think that their thought is anything other than we have a team to beat at home. That's the high that we want to end the Premiership on, at least at home, which is exactly where their kind of
100%.
thought should be.
Yeah, 100% that they won't be caring about the league, right? That's entirely a pettiness for the fans, right? Yeah, like that matters to us because we want to see, the right things can prevail, etc. But they will definitely not be looking at this game as a mechanism for the final. They'll be coming up with this is an opportunity to send the fans off. This is an opportunity to send those who the players off, have a great night out, etc. afterwards, and send the likes of Seabrook, who's delivered for Northampton over the last couple of seasons, and a few of the other players, Ruben Logan, who made his debut last week, he's off, etc., Tarek Farr, all those players, etc. That'll be the story, that'll be the motivation, and that'll be the focus.
Exactly.
Cardiff will be back of the head. They won't even be thinking about it. But for us fans, please beat Sarries. Please stop and get the top.
With the full strength, I don't want to jinx anything because I hate the fact that I might jinx anything. But I'll caveat it on paper, because that always feels like the best way to caveat it. But on paper, our current full strength side versus their full strength side, we should be able to get a win.
Yeah, but then the rugby is a mental game, and Sarries have got that carrot of top four, haven't they?
Yeah.
Whereas, and that's what
they'll be
be
up for it. I'm not debating that they'll be up for it whatsoever. No, definitely not. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Good matchup.
The thing is,
genuinely good matchup.
The lads are going to be they won't want to think this, but they're going to be like, do I go in for that tackle? Because if I get injured, I'm not playing in the final. So I'm not saying they will do that. No, but in your head, you're just going to, you got to be careful.
Possibly, but you could also have argued that that's what they would have done over Bristol when they didn't back off from that one little bit. And in theory, at that point, Leinster was the thing of, this is going to be the toughest challenge that we've ever had, and everybody had written us off. And they didn't stop for 1 single second against Bristol. They went at that full hog, and I have no doubt that they'll do exactly the same against Saracens.
That's the challenge.
Slightly different though, because Bristol, we wanted to beat Bristol, and no one gave us a hope in the semi. Whereas now we're in a final where it's anybody's game. So you don't want to get injured before it, do you? Do you know what I mean? So
but I think that the team thought they had a chance against Leinster.
Yeah, I know, but
I think they felt that. So I think they'll still throw absolutely everything at it. I think it'll still be a 110% effort.
I'm not saying they won't give effort. I just mean that as a human, as a mentality, is going to be, I don't want to get injured because I want to play in that final. So I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to put 100% in, but it's just your natural human instinct to go, oh, if I hit that ruck, I might get my leg done. You know what I mean? It's just you can't help it. It's your head.
Bit of self-preservation. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's the word.
I think there is a difference between the Bristol game and Sarah's game, because when we went into the Bristol game, we were still looking for a performance. Like we still hadn't quite hit the peak of performance that we get to, and they played really well against Bristol, but it still left the door open for further improvement. And then they played Leinster, and I mean that is now a performance to put your hat on. That is I know there is areas where they want to be better, and nothing's perfect, and there are certain areas where we could have done better, but you can't rule them out. That was a performance it will go down forever as one of the greatest performances ever in a Saints jersey, right? So they've got that performance, so it does change it slightly, but I do agree it's just about getting this week's prep and motivation right so that they can go into that Sarries game fully bought, full guns ho, and ready to play the game and not be thinking about anything else. And I think this Dowson's an expert at it, isn't he? He's just so good at getting like the right story, getting the right tale told, so that they can all buy into it and it all works. He's fantastic.
Yeah, you've got to think that it's an easy one to kind of get your head right for, just simply because it is the last home game for some key players that have got us to the Champions Cup final, that got us the Prem win last year. Like, if they're struggling to find the motivation for that, then you're just like, well, you can't be helped. Saying goodbye to some of those people, like you said, like Timo go in, Seabrook go in, Hafar go in. There's obviously a few others, Augustus going. Like, getting a final win for them at Franklin's Gardens should be all the motivator that you need when you consider how important they've been to the squad in the past couple of years. So that's really the way they should be going at it, in terms of you put everything out there for your teammates who have put everything out there for you, over the past couple of years. Like, that's the motivator for me.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. So what do we think score-wise? I mean, I think it's me to go first this week, so I'll jump in. I'm going to go 36-21, and I'm going to go with should we cover off the Exeter predictions? So
we can.
Yeah, so none of us got a try scorer, none of us got margins. I did back Chiefs, or not back them. I said they win.
You said.
We all did think that would happen, but then we just
So I sort of stole a win basically, because I actually predicted what we thought would happen. Whereas we don't always do that. So I've got the point there, but for the week. But anyway, this week, so 36-21, free motor score. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
I went first last week, so you go, Simon.
All right, I'll go 32-27, and I'll go with Mitchell.
Cool.
I'm trying to think, because last year, I mean, I just got to think, I think it's going to be close, because I remember last year where we kind of, in the semi, we sort of got a little bit of a lead, and then they got back in it right at the end, didn't they? And it ended up being like a 4-point game or whatever it was. So I feel like it's going to be close. I'm going to go 35, 32. And, scorer. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, by the way. It's just history says that we tend to always end up quite close together with them. Score. I don't know. Well, let's just go Henry. Let's just do it. Let's just go for Pollock. Let's just do it. He's riding the high of his life. Let's just go for it.
I've gone for like a 15-point win there, right? And the thing is, I think us full strength are probably 15 points better than Sarries. But I can picture it now because it's happened a million times. We'll be 15 points clear, pretty comfortable, and then Sarries will get 2 bonus points at the end. Last minute try, whatever, just to get them an extra bonus point, and the score end up looking pretty close when we've actually outplayed them. And then there's also the factor of when we start pulling, Finn, Mitch, whoever off the pitch to make sure that they're wrapped up in cotton wool for the week after that. The benches might have an impact as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting. The thing is, it's just gonna be a great game back at the Gardens for the last time this year before we get one more away day, and then that's the season for the Saints fans. So
just need to mention, I can't remember his name. Sorry, we signed the French flyer from Clermont.
Yeah, Anthony Belleau.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Belleau.
I think
necessary as one of the first things.
That's probably GMC going then, isn't it? To be fair.
No, I don't think it is because.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just we need.
We're not going to see Finn next year, are we?
Yeah. No, so we actually need two. So we essentially will need like GMC and another.
I don't think I'm not happy about it. I'm glad we've got a quality replacement.
Yeah.
That's just going to limit his thing. And we've said like him and McPartland, it could be the future pairing. If you've got another international fly half there, isn't that going to just sort of say like?
You have also got to take into account his age though. Like he's 29. This is not like a long. No, I feel like maybe it's like maybe 3 years, 2-3 years, and then they'll see. But it's definitely necessary to have someone because, like you said, Finn's going to be gone. Yeah, and that's really been kind of, I don't want to say Achilles' heel because as it turned out, Finn was able to play a lot last year, and it's probably benefited him to be able to do that. But sort of this season, it's been our Achilles' heel a bit of not having someone. I think at first, like the worry was that actually it meant that Finn was going. Because you kind of worry, what does an international 10, coming to the club with another international 10, you sort of think, oh, but I mean, what is he, 29 and he's got 12 caps, so it's not.
His caps were a while ago.
International by truth, I guess, in terms of like the terminology, but is he still an international 10? No. And I think so. I think my mom told me actually that she'd read something about how he'd been here before when he was a kid and he saw Saints play and he'd always wanted to play here, and the opportunity came and he took it. And he just wanted to. I think he just wants to get. He essentially reads like kind of before the end of his career at some point he just wanted to experience playing in the Premiership, and this was his opportunity, and he sort of took it. But yeah, it'd be interesting with Finn in particular what happens. He's got obviously 1 year left on his contract. I'm assuming that, I think there were worries at one point he was going to get bought out of that and other people were interested in him. It seems fairly solid that he's going to at least do that year. Obviously it then depends kind of what happens afterwards, because it's the difficulty when the player does really well when they've played for you is that eventually the interest comes from literally everywhere. I remember saying that like if you've got your marquee slot open, put Finn Smith in it and pay him whatever it is he's asking for.
Yeah, the problem is the marquee has to be a new signing from outside the league.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like
the thing being, I think the thing with it is right. So when you look at it is, so Finn was always going to go on that Lions tour. He's going to play for England in every match. There is a cap on the number of games players can play. It's 30 games. He might play 5 or 6 times on the Lions tour.
Yeah.
He'll play potentially 4 times in the autumn. He'll play 5 times in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Right. So you're looking up to 50.
You've lost a third already. Yeah, like at
or
least
half.
A third.
Yeah, you're almost up to 15 games of rugby there, which we've not got him for. So that leaves us 15 potentially if he's fit. Okay. So then you go, well, if you're going to play him in the biggest games, which is the Champions Cup, that could be 6 games. So he's going to be only available for a very small amount of the Premiership, and obviously the games when they're overlapping, he's not going to be there anyway. So, we're not going to see a lot of Finn Smith next season. Belleau is someone who is very similar in style to Finn, so he can plug straight in. He's also versatile, can play 15, 12. Great back squad player. I think GMC will still get just as many opportunities with Belleau at the squad because of that. And also I think it's sort of more competition will drive the standards as it is anyway, and having a player who can run training properly, and we haven't had a fly out for that because we've had 2 injuries and one of them has been playing mainly centre anyway, so and it's funny how 10 years ago or 11 years ago when we won the league the first time, we only really had Myler. And there've been so many players who sort of tried to take his crown, Lamb, Geraghty, JJ Hannaran, etc. They'd all tried, and that Myler had seen them off. And come the season we won it, we only really had one fly half. And then last year we only really had one fly half, and we won the league again. So I wouldn't run it, wouldn't mock it, but good signing. I think
it gives, like I said, it gives GMC. He'll still have opportunities, but it's also opportunities that aren't totally wrought with like an insane amount of pressure, because obviously like if like you said, Finn is gone for that a third of games up to probably a half of games that he's allowed to play, and so he could only come and do like 15 or whatever. That then means that whoever your sort of starting 10 in is playing a lot, and it's not to say necessarily that a GMC couldn't necessarily handle it. We haven't really seen him enough to know that. But to just assume that like we're going to chuck all of this pressure on someone who's really young, like not everyone is a Finn Smith or a Henry Pollock that just don't seem to give any, don't seem to put any interest or stock in feeling pressure of any kind, and seem to just love their life and be able to play at an insane level. But like we can't expect everybody to be that. So I think actually having someone that, like you said, comes in and is able to kind of take the pressure off of GMC, and instead he can come on and do, 20, 30 minutes and get some really good game time in without the pressure of being like, this season might rest on me because we don't have Finn. That's actually a lot of pressure. Whereas you feel like someone like a Belleau who's played, yes, it's been a long time since the international caps, but they are still international caps. It's still experience. It's still probably a bit more level-headedness. That's sort of, I think, what we miss when Finn isn't around. And then, like you said, the actual opportunities, like you said, during training, to have an actual experienced 10 in training when you're trying to go through those structures and get yourself ready, it's just invaluable. And I know it seems weird as Premiership champions and Champions Cup finalists, hopefully champions, to be like, we are sorely missing something, but we can still sort of say that we actually are. And we really want to, after this year, we're really going to want to have another run at the Prem, right? We don't want another 10-year cycle between the two. And I think eventually just having Finn Smith as your only 10 and no one else, it will catch up with us eventually if it hasn't sort of already. So yeah, I think it was just super important that we did that. And yeah, it looks like a really, really solid. We've made some really solid signings, to be honest. We've done, I think, some really good business this year in terms of who is coming in. Considering, obviously, I said losing Augustus is huge, and getting Chicken is a really good get. Yeah. So we've done all right this year, I think, in terms of, and there's not too much movement. There's some, but it doesn't feel like as massive as it felt last year, between last year and this year. So I think we'll be a lot more settled next year and in a better place because the reality is, I think now we're probably going to be 8th, right? At one point it looked like we might be able to get 7th, but with our loss and Quinns' win, just that's gone. Realistically, so yeah, it'll be really important next year to get ourselves back into top 4 contention, and also obviously Europe as well. Like you said, that's still going to be no matter what happens that year, that's always still a priority. So yeah, we've got strength and depth in so many areas, but the 10 was always glaring, considering the injuries we had. So yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think we've got somebody really good, and I think that should just help us in the Prem as well. Definitely, like push on next year.
It's a bit of breath of fresh air, though, to actually see a French player come over to England. It's normally the talk. It's not the norm.
To really want to, yeah.
You say he's not played international for a while, but he's been playing for Clermont. They're still one of the best sides in France. So it's not like you're getting I'm not saying you are, but it's not like we're getting a journeyman from France. He's at the peak of his career at 29. I think it's a quality signing, to be fair.
Lost a bit of favour at Clermont and looking for the fresh challenge. And you say, for GMC, etc. If Finn's away, and your fly half, and I know we play a lot of 9, but your fly half's always the man, isn't he? He's always the man who's controlling things and driving things, and that's a lot to put on GMC. But to have Belleau in the squad so GMC can learn off of him, because with Finn away, who's GMC learning off of? Yes, Vesti, of course, and the coaches, but it's hard. You always want that player there to see what they're doing, see how they're operating, and I think it's better probably for his development more than anything, and it gives him a standard to project to get to. I've got to be better than Belleau. That's GMC's goal, isn't it? So if rather than Finn's not here, I need to be better than who?
Yeah, exactly. It pushes him because and this is nothing against GMC because I think he's going to go on to be a really fantastic player, but he was never realistically competing with Finn. If we're being honest, nobody is really certainly. So it gives him, like you said, it gives him something to really specifically aim at. Over the next couple of years, can I end up learning from this guy, and then eclipsing him and becoming first choice after a couple of years? It is actually genuinely something to hit and to aim at, and I think it's only going to make him better. Whereas, like I said, at the moment with Finn always playing kind of the 80 minutes, he just didn't get. Even before he was injured, he wasn't really getting much of a look in. Because you wouldn't when Finn is playing that well. So actually, I think, weirdly enough, it sounds strange to think, oh, well, Finn's not going to play as much. We've brought someone else in. I actually think it's going to give GMC much more opportunities than if that hadn't have happened. It's just kind of a weird way that's kind of worked out. So, yeah, definitely interesting. And
you do realise that GMC is only 2 years younger than Finn Smith, though. I know Finn Smith's just a freak because he's already like a 30-year-old player at 20.
Yeah, that's the thing. He is a freak.
3 years older. That's all. It's not like.
No, that is it. He's going to be a player that goes down along the names of Carter, Wilkinson, Larkham, etc. Right? That's elite. That's the very level. He is a freak. He is that good. Like people talked about, Prendergast, he'll get better. He's only young. He's the same age as Finn Smith. It just shows you that level that Finn Smith's at rather than the level that anyone else is at, because they're right when they say that about Prendergast. He will get better, but Finn Smith is already outstanding because he's that good a player.
Smith is the outlier. He's not the rule. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Like Pollock, for example, he's like the outlier of 20-year-olds playing at this level. The outlier of an insane amount. So like you said, GMC at 21, he is not going to be a Finn Smith. It's certainly not the next couple of years, because I think that's, like you said, it's a Finn Smith thing. So he's actually got kind of a few years there to kind of actually develop. And then let's say, is it Belleau? I don't really have to pronounce it. Belleau. Let's say that he does do 3 years. At that point, GMC is 24 and still has such a large amount of time still to continue building from there. He'll only be 24 at that point. And so that's actually kind of crazy to think about, that he'll be able to learn so much and still be young when he's able to continue pushing on. But Finn is, like I said, Finn is just the outlier at 23. That's just, you shouldn't. The same with most of our guys that are young. To be look at Tommy Freeman. I think he's probably the best winger in the world, and he's not. He's still young. He's still, only just. Yeah. So he's still. He's still 3 or 4 years off of his peak. Think about how crazy that will all be in a couple, because they would say your peak is what, between 25 and 27-ish, 25 and 28, usually when you hit the mid-20s, that's usually when people tend to. So you think about where those two are going to be. Think about where Smith and Freeman are going to be in a few years. Is wild.
It does change with position, wingers.
Definitely. I'm trying to take an average, as best of an average. I think it's
he'll move
a bit
in,
younger for
13. Yeah, be amazing 13, but it won't be the pace lasts so long.
Exactly. That's why I'm sort of saying probably 25 for him. It's usually about 27, I think, for kind of some of the other. Yeah. So you still got to think he's still 22 is definitely not your peak. So you think about where he is, where both of them are now. It's crazy, isn't it? But like I said, they are very much the outliers rather than kind of the rule. So
you're about Smith as well. He just turned 23 a week ago, didn't he? As well. So you say the rise of Pollock. You got to remember that Smith, he was third choice fly half for England before, didn't he? You got to remember that. They had Marcus Smith was ahead of him, even Ford was ahead of him, and they just come in like give him his chance, and now he could be the starting 10 for the Lions. It's insane, really.
Yeah, again, it's positionary as well. Like you can chuck in a 19, 20-year-old flanker, but like I said, the 10's the man, isn't it?
Yeah.
10's the dude. You can't put in a 20-year-old kid to run everything. Like you can if they're good enough. They're good enough. They're old enough, but that's just
that's what Farrell said, isn't it? When they asked him about
balance it all out, and you got to get the mental catches, got to catch up with the physical and the skills and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's because someone had obviously asked Andy about asked Farrell about picking Pollock, and he said that same thing. If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah.
And that's where the 4 guys that have been picked, really, that's where all of them are. Like, I mean, Mitchell's, I think, a little bit older than the others, isn't he? But certainly for 3 of them, that kind of fits them pretty well. Because, I mean, you've got to think, I still think they're going to pick Russell as a starting 10, but you've got to think that Freeman is going to start.
Yeah, let's not get into Lions chat now, right? We need to wind this up, because otherwise we'll be talking for hours, because there's a lot to cover off, and we'll get it across the next few weeks, I'm sure. But thanks everyone for listening. It's been another good strong conversation and exciting game ahead for the last game of the season. So pretty confident, but let's see how we go. Come on, you Saints. I've been Charles. Simon's been Simon. Jess has been Jess. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, bye.